Well, we've covered mass incarceration here at Hardlands multiple times, and especially here in Cook County. And there's actually an event going on. I want to say in the next half hour, it's starting right now. So Moms United and a bunch of co-sponsoring organizations are holding the 5th annual Mother's Day Vigil and Toiletry Drive outside the Cook County Jail. Just across the street from the main visitors gate, they're going to be collecting any donations and whatnot for the incarcerated women there. Many of them mothers, and it's great to have that kind of community support again for the 5th year. And some of these co-sponsors are the Black Lives Matter Chicago, the Black Lives Matter Women of Faith, the Brave Space Alliance, Chicago Community Bond Fund, Chicago Books to Women in Prison, Chicago Volunteer Duelists, Lifted Voices, Love and Protect, the People's Lobby. There are a lot of great organizations that have been coming together over the last few years, and they want to uplift and honor the mothers that have been separated from their children, from their families, due to being incarcerated in jails, prisons, deportation centers, and even by the restrictive conditions of electronic monitoring and parole. So I want to kind of give that over to the floor to you guys. I think it's great that, that we have something that's addressing this, because, what's keeping a lot of these women incarcerated, and again, about 60% aren't even convicted. They're just, they're not able to pay for the bond, and because of the wage gap that we have, it's taking even longer, and in order to pay off that bail fee. And this is keeping them away from their children, from their jobs, and it's just having that domino effect that is essentially ruining thousands of lives.
Well, it's like we said last week, debtor prisons in the U.S. are alive and well. We just format them differently than we used to. Again, 100 years ago it was, you have a private debt that you haven't paid, so we're going to put you in jail. And now it's, if you have a private debt that hasn't been paid and then you get sued and then you refuse to pay it, you're breaking a court-ordered payment, so now you're going to jail. It's just debtor's prison with extra steps. Mm-hmm. That's what we're dealing with right now. And like Lauren said, if we're such a country that values so much the idea of innocent until proven guilty, we sure have an odd way of showing it, where we put people in jail sometimes for periods longer than their jail sentence would have been. I think one thing that we should do in the future, if we want to have some new solutions to things, is if you're arrested and put in jail and it turns out you're not guilty of anything, you should be paid for every day you were in jail.
Yeah,
absolutely. I think it's like, why not? I mean,
if you're innocent, yes, absolutely.
If the police arrest you for something
that you
didn't do, you should be paid for losing your time and freedom. Because remember, it's really sick to think of it, but like for some people, it's, well, what's the price of not paying your ticket? Well, you're going to get sexually assaulted, strip searched, put in jail, have your rights taken away, have your freedom taken away for a, oops, some officer thought he saw something. If everyone remembers that video that came out a number of days ago, I posted it on the site. It was this guy who had paid in cash for some Mentos or something at a 7-Eleven. You saw that video? So he pays for the Mentos. Everything's good. The clerk gets it, and he just grabs the pack of Mentos off the table and puts it in his pocket. And an off-duty police officer pulls out a gun on him and says, "I'm a police officer," and says, "Put that back. You stole that." He's like, "But I just bought it." He's like, "Put it back." And so he puts it back, and the guy gives it his change, and the guy starts to walk out, and the cop goes up to the clerk. He's like, "Did he pay for that?" And the guy's like, "Yeah, he paid for that." And he's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." So I wrote a post that said, look at that. You have the cop thinks that he saw something with his paranoia that something's happening. The guy's off duty. It's not even an on-duty cop. An off-duty cop gets paranoid about a situation and almost executes a civilian for doing nothing wrong.
Even if it was something, he's willing to potentially kill someone for shoplifting Mentos.
Mentos, the most dangerous thing ever in human history that anyone can buy.
Coke. Yeah, but that's the point. That's the situation that we live in, where cops can just go, "Yeah, but I thought he had something, so now he's in jail for 30 days. His life is ruined. His job's gone. His family had to move on because they needed the money. Oh, I destroyed someone's life. But, you know, they'll just deal with it and pull themselves up by their bootstraps.
And just to rewind back the clock just a little bit further, because I want to return this back to Lauren. But remember when we covered that story about the 13 individuals who were finally exonerated after they were battling the Chicago Police Department in regards to this this one policeman and his 3 other squad members who were planting false evidence
and
extorting these individuals just because. And
if you don't get me $20,000, you're going to go to jail.
You're going to go to jail. And see, the thing is, that just wasn't a one-time thing. This happens all over Chicago and all over this country. It's come to the point to where it's the prison profit, the prison industrial complex is destroying people's lives, and it mostly targets minority communities, African Americans, Latinos, immigrants, and even working class families as well, and poor white families as well. I mean, everyone's going to be targeted, and don't wait up; it's going to happen to you too. And we have this whole corrupt system that's not being held accountable. We need to do something. And just to quote Daniel, because you said this numerous times, it takes longer to get a barber's license here in the United States than it is to become a police officer.
Yeah, to become a police officer takes between 6 and 8 months of training, which is a hairdresser takes longer to go to school to do that. Yeah. And they're like, and then you have police officers saying, "But I know the law. I was trained." Yeah, you were trained mostly on shooting a gun effectively, but then we get to like a story I just read this morning when I was coming in here, that a woman who has epilepsy, seizure epilepsy, takes marijuana as a way to deal with that. We've seen cases of like kids that have that kind of issue, and I don't remember exactly what state she was in, but in the area she was in, having the amount of that she had the police were supposed to just disregard anything of that level or give a fine. Well, she got arrested, and then now she's saying that she was raped in jail by the prison guard. So these are the kind of things where it's like, oh, you didn't do anything wrong. Well, you're still going to get raped. Or you didn't do anything wrong. You're still going to get strip searched. Or you didn't do anything wrong. Well, you're still going to be in jail for a month and lose everything you have. There has to be something for people that are in jail that shouldn't be in jail. It's just a travesty that the U.S. can think of itself as a good role model and just go, yeah, I'm going to ruin your life. I'm going to ruin your life. I'm going to ruin your... No reason. Just going to do it.
It's targeting. You target the most vulnerable. And unfortunately, a lot of women in this country... I'll just give some background because I kind of want to go back to the event for a little bit, in case any of our listeners out there, if you're in the area and you want to go check it out, you want to go donate. So this event's currently being held at 2700 South California Avenue here in Chicago, again, at the Cook County Jail. And, they're accepting, anything from travel-sized bottles of shampoo, conditioner, liquid soap, lotion, deodorant, toothbrushes, toothpaste, even things like tampons and pads, because, a lot of the, what was it, like commissary?
Commissary.
A lot of it is jacked up, too, in price. And, a lot of the women that have been incarcerated here in Cook County are also living in poverty. So to have, like, your basic necessities, like soap, to me, it's just.
But the U.S. is too poor a country to afford soap for its jailed citizens.
Well, we can afford a $95 million.
But that money was there. We had that put aside
to every woman in prison here.
Yeah, and it's also important to note, like you said, the $95 million police academy. We have money for that, and when a powerful person like Chance the Rapper, he has a huge following on social.
Chance, come on our show. Let's talk about Chicago corruption.
Yeah,
I'm sure you're listening right now.
He has a following on social media.
If you follow Chance the Rapper and hear this,
hold on, wait. But I need to add this because this is very important, and it shows what kind of system we live in. The very fact you have someone of his stature, large following on social media, popular musician, all that. When he asked the question to Mayor Rahm Emanuel, how come we have money for a $95 million police academy and not enough money for our public schools, our mayor heroically walked out the room. Now, I don't know why he walked out the room, but he walked out the room.
He was being heroic.
He
had to go step on some orphanage somewhere, I'm sure.
Probably. Most likely. Kittens. And again, this is a common thing. Under Mayor Emanuel's watch, 50 schools got shut down. So, return back to you, Lauren.
On that note,
Yeah, on that note, yeah.
Yeah.
He also failed to have oversight that he promised of the Chicago Police Department after that investigation came out last January.
For Laquan
He
McDonald, right?
Well, of the entire police department.
Oh, wow.
When they had that internal investigation, and he promised oversight, and he never did it. So, I mean, it just goes to show how little we actually care about the people that are most vulnerable to the prison system and the way that they're treated by higher authority. And, that's something that we need to be speaking out more of. And, which is why events like this, it's like it's not only, like a huge donation kind of like rally kind of thing, but it's also a big celebration for all of these mothers, that have been separated from their families, from their jobs, from, a lot of them single mothers, where their kids are even subjected to having to go into like child services and whatnot because of something that they're not even convicted for. They're literally just sitting there in prison or in jail waiting to be able to afford their bonds, and they can't do it, So it's supposed to be a way to kind of to celebrate these mothers, and they're having artists, they're going to have music, they're going to have people coming in on buses, for visitations, and it's just remember on Mother's Day, whether no matter where she is, we have to remember to love one another, and remember that not all of our mothers can be here and can be with us. But there are a lot of mothers out there that are suffering and that need our help.
And I also want to add on to this, that in this context, well, first, for this drive, definitely go and donate something. There's a good chance you're giving something to an innocent mother who's just lost her freedom.
Yeah.
But second, if you have money, this doesn't really affect you. You can just pay bail. You just pay bail, you get a lawyer. If it's a marijuana crime, you're going to get that dismissed if you have any amount of functioning legal team that you can afford. But, of course, that takes money where, for some people it's like, yeah, we have that in the bank, but, that's fine, whatever. And for other people it's, well, that's 2 months' pay that I haven't saved.
Yeah.
And I also kind of want to break down some of the numbers here, too, because they had listed a few sources on the event page. And so I just kind of want to go into some of that. So according to the Prison Policy Institute, there are about 220,000 women incarcerated in the U.S., 96,000 of whom are in jails, and a vast majority of women are there because of the bond required for the pretrial release amounts to half or all of their income. Again, many of them fall under the poverty line. So if you have a $10,000 bail and you're only making $11,000 a year, you're sitting in prison for a year,
So, what is it? 4 out of 10 Americans or 7 out of 10 Americans can't afford a random charge of $400 or more.
No.
Yep.
So if your bail is
can't.
over $400, well, you're in jail for, well, you just lost everything. Everything you've built up. If you've gone to school, you've built all that up in this entire trek. Well, now you're just a criminal that no one's going to hire for a reason that's not your fault.
Yeah.
I wonder if you guys know this. It's true in some states. I don't know if it's true in Illinois, but when you're in jail, I don't know if it's true for prison, but I know in some states when you're in jail, you actually accrue cost. Like there are costs to being in jail that you get billed once you're free.
And
That
then if you
doesn't
can't
surprise
pay
me.
those, then you go back to jail for not paying those fines. Because of course that makes sense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
of course. We live in a backwards system, a fully functioning corporatist, oligarchy, feudal state, neoliberalism at its finest. And all in all, just remember,
And,
just because you think that this doesn't affect you, don't wait up. It's going to affect you. Even if you live in not outside Cook County, no matter what, this system that we have, it's cannibalizing on people. And as soon as it runs out of a certain group to cannibalize on and eat, it's going to come after you. So what happens to one group of people, it's going to happen to you as well. It's all of us. And as Americans, we should get angry. We should start stepping up and actually using our powers to actually implement some kind of social change. This can't go on. There has to be a breaking point. All of us out here, here's the thing, we all have the same wants and fears, and we all just want to have a nice life. And if we just keep turning a blind eye to this, if we just say, no, it doesn't affect me, it's going to affect you. And by that time, you won't have anyone to back you up because all those other groups are gone.
I want to sum up your point. I think that's an amazing point you made. I'm going to say it like this. Don't be the dessert that laughs at the appetizer for getting eaten.
Yeah. That is good.
I like that.
That is good. And don't be that person who says, I wish they could help.
And also, I want to add on to one thing to compound this even further. If you're in jail long enough, and also especially if you're in a for-profit prison, you're also engaging in slave labor. because they're being paid nothing. And then, of course, the stuff that like the toiletries are like, oh, well, you make 4 cents an hour, but this soap is $1.
Yeah.
And
or the fact that in a lot of jails it's $1.50 per minute that you're on the phone, and yes, that's right, per minute. So if you're only making a couple cents an hour and you haven't spoken to your children in weeks at a time,
well, you better work all day to get 1 minute with them. Hey, how you doing?
just
Okay,
saying,
disconnected.
like, this is common.
Yeah.
This is what thousands of women are going through across the country. You know, this is something that needs to get talked about more often, because I think in a lot of cases, you know, they get lost in the shadows. You know, they've had their freedom stripped away from them, and it's not being talked about, you know. So I'm really glad that we're covering this right now, and I'm so grateful for, you know, all these organizations coming together and doing this, because, you know, again, it's insane what these women have had to go through, and the fact that 80% of the women in jails are mothers.
Yeah, and that's a really, really big thing, and a lot of them are single mothers. So let's go compound. Okay, you have been caught with a joint on you. What is the consequence then? A fair society, don't smoke that in public. Go on. In a American society, well, we're going to put circumstances together that there's a very fair chance that you're going to get cavity searched, put in jail, have your freedom taken away for months, and then while that's happening, when you're waiting for your trial because you can't pay for your bond, you're going to be put into slave labor to do work for either a private company or the state to make money for another private company or the state, while your kid gets put in protective services and you never see them again. What a great trade-off.
And that child has now increased likelihood to end up coming into conflict with the law in the future.
And so then the cycle
sort of
repeats.
a self-fulfilling prophecy.
And so then you go back to this. I mean, not that it's the same thing, but for homeless population, it costs about $70,000 a year for the various departments in a city to deal with them. Whereas if they're just a productive member of society that you've helped with whatever mental health issue or whatever the issue is that made them homeless to begin with, then they're productive members that are actually earning GDP rather draining GDP. But that's, you know, not the issue in America, because that's not the focus of what we're trying to do. We're not trying to make people better. We're not trying to improve people. We're just trying to make a little buck off of every single turn we can do.
And get free slave labor at the same time.
It worked in the past, and why not do it now, right?
Yeah, of
And
course.
the domino effect doesn't even end once they leave the jails or leave the prisons. I mean, you have 3 out of 4 women, once they go into the system, when they come out, they're on probation, which is taking time away from, again, having to make their meetings with their probation officers, paying fees, being separated from their kids, once again, taking off work, trying to find babysitters that they probably can't afford because they're paying all of these fees out of being away from their jobs.
And if they start losing those fees, well, then they go back to jail.
It's an insane domino effect. And, you know, this is why we need serious, not only police reform, but the way that we look at the entire prison system. And the way that, you know, this is such an intersectional topic, too. I mean, even just with the wage gap, too. If it was equal pay for equal work for a lot of these women, it wouldn't take as long for them. And they wouldn't just be sitting in jail waiting to accrue enough to be able to pay this off, if they can.
Yeah, it's a backward system we live in. And, you know, it saddens me that this is a common thing that's in our country. It's times for real reform, real political action. And if this is something that angers you, if this is something I keep on saying it over and over again,
please go donate.
Now is the time to get involved, because we all need to step up. We all need to take action, and inaction is going to let this thing fester and grow until it becomes a facet of American life. And think about it. Do you want to live in that kind of society? Do you want to live in that kind of world? I don't. It's a nightmare.
And a lot of people are.
Yeah, we already live there. A lot of people already live there.